I remind you that this meeting is to be recorded and ask you to note that mobile phones should be switched off as they interfere with the recording. Tablet devices should be switched to mute. I remind members to declare their interest as appropriate throughout the meeting. I advise members will be moving into closed session to consider the forward programme towards the end of the meeting. This will involve discussion on the topic of the next committee review. Can I declare the meeting open to the public? Agenda item 1, are there any apologies? No apologies. Agenda item 2, chairperson's business, can refer members to the notes of the informal meeting with Commissioner Hogan on pages 5 to 7. Can I seek comments from members? I'm happy with that.
Chairman, just in relation to Commissioner Hogan, he did mention that he would like at some stage maybe a committee or delegation of the committee to visit Brussels. I don't know if that's something we want to think about.
I think at some stage the appropriate time when would be most applicable maybe to Northern Ireland would be can look at that.
Yeah, particularly given that the RDP programme is going to be settled by the first or second week of July. Maybe prior to that, somewhere else.
Okay. You can look at that. Get Stella maybe. Okay.
Chair. Sorry, I didn't.
Okay, sorry.
Chair, one of the things I noted from the meeting with the Commissioner, and also referred to in the notes here today, he stressed repeatedly that he'd be taking a bottom-up approach to his portfolio, and he mentioned a number of occasions different case studies to sort of amplify some of the issues we have been raising. I wonder if it would be helpful if the committee was to actually maybe proactively look at that there, providing case studies to animate some of the issues that we raised here today, because he did repeatedly mention his bottom-up approach and the need for case studies.
Okay. You know that? Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to ask members to send me in case studies and then I can collate them?
I think that'd be helpful, wouldn't it?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Can I advise members that the Minister has invited the committee to Belmore Show Dark Breakfast event on Thursday, 14th of May 2015 at 8:15 a.m. There are 3 breakfast options, not often you get that available, and a ticket sheet is now circulating for members to indicate if they plan to attend and their breakfast choice.
Take all 3.
It doesn't matter. You just.
I don't know where you get that choice or not.
Do you get all 3?
Yeah. Members should note that per last year, the Assembly does not plan to have a stand at the event and that no committee event is planned. Members will therefore be free after breakfast to attend the party business. Then item 3, minutes of the meeting 24th of March 2015. Can refer members to draft minutes of the meeting held 24th of March 2015 at pages 9 to 14. Are members content that the draft minutes are accurate?
Great.
Agreed. Agenda item 4. Yeah. I sign, okay. No. Okay. Agenda item 4, monitor rising. For members to monitor rising at page 17 to 20. Are members content to action monitor rising as suggested on the index at page 16? Okay, members? Great. Agenda item 5, our briefing regarding better regulation and R&D strategy. Members will recall that at the meeting on the 24th of March 2015, 2 potential review topics were identified for a committee review. 2 topics were better regulations and research and development strategy in Northern Ireland. We agreed to seek further information from the Department on the 2 topics before making a final decision. The Department has requested that this item is considered first to accommodate one of the officials who has travel commitments. We'll take evidence now and then further consider this agenda item under forward programme in the closed session. And refer members to the papers from the Department at pages 22 to 26. The briefing paper on better regulation is at page 22. The R&D is at pages 23 to 26. We will also hear about the R&D strategy first. Can I welcome Mr. Carson, Science, Evidence and Innovation Policy Director, Norman Fulton, Chief Executive Economist, and Damien Kerr, Research Policy Branch. Can I ask the first group of officials take up to 10 minutes to give us your briefing, and we will then ask some questions. Okay? Very well.
Thanks, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank, first of all, the committee, first of all, for the opportunity to outline DARD's research and development strategy for the agri-food sector, as you consider potential items for future committee inquiries. We've submitted a short paper outlining our evidence and innovation strategy. I'll just highlight some of the main issues which are dealt with in the paper. Over the past 5 years, DARD's scientific work has been directed by our evidence and innovation strategy. This sets the overarching framework against which informed decisions are made in terms of scientific needs. The strategy has been set out, the evidence and innovation strategy, that is, to underpin the vision and goals of the DARD strategic plan. And this framework for DARD-funded R&D decisions has a 5 to 10 year time horizon. It recognises that research has a short and long-term effects. The strategy identifies the strategic areas requiring focus to generate evidence base for policy development, so evidence for solid policy development and delivery in DARD. And it also represents DARD's contribution to promoting innovation in the agri-food sector in line with the objectives of the innovation strategy in Northern Ireland. A review of the current evidence innovation strategy has been completed, and this will help inform the development of new strategy for 2015 and beyond. But when drafted, the new strategy will be presented to the DARD committee prior to public consultation. Whilst the balance of emphasis within the strategy will evolve in response to changing circumstances, the overall framework within our strategy remains valid. And the current commissioning process does provide flexibility to allow the department to respond to emerging needs and their changing circumstances. Thus, the strategic goals and delivery mechanisms within the current strategy remain in place until its successor is in place itself. Falling out of the strategy, so the strategy really identifies strategic needs and focus areas for policy development and for innovation in the agri-food sector at a high level. DARD has then funding mechanisms through 3 main channels. Through the DARD-directed AFPI Research and Development Programme. Secondly, through a DARD a postgraduate scheme, which funds PhD studentships. And the industry-led Challenge Research Fund. Details are presented in the paper of the 3 channels, but just briefly to touch on each in a little bit of detail. Firstly, turning to the DARD-directed AFPI Research and Development Programme, while the strategy sets out the high-level framework for research, the detailed evidence and innovation activities are coordinated through 4 programme management boards, which broadly align to DARD strategic priorities. So there's a programme management board which deals with competitiveness in the marketplace, a programme management board which deals with the wider rural policy needs, a PMB which deals with animal health and welfare and plant health, and a programme management board which deals with research needs around sustainable environment. So those 4 programme management boards, and they have major roles and responsibilities to review, identify and prioritise investment in evidence gathering or information support activity in light of policy needs and evidence gaps. Evidence innovation needs are identified by DARD, and this is informed by both informal and formal engagement with stakeholders, and this forms the basis of an annual research programme commissioning document. The process is designed to ensure the development of an evidence innovation programme that's appropriately aligned to policy needs, provides a robust evidence base for future policy development, for future policy implementation and reviews, and also supports industry innovation within the scope of DARD's responsibilities. In terms of the second funding stream, that's the postgraduate scheme, we fund up to 12 new PhD students each year. Currently, there are 27 students undertaking PhDs. They're undertaking them in areas that have been prioritised by DARD of policy need for the department. So they serve an important mechanism of delivering on our evidence innovation needs, but also as an investment in students and future industry leaders, and also helping to develop the scientific base in Northern Ireland. So that's the DARD postgraduate scheme. Thirdly, the Research Challenge Fund. The focus of the Research Challenge Fund is to increase participation in research by SMEs and collaboration between SMEs and the research community and collaboration. That's very much the focus of the work. It aims to encourage those collaborations in innovative, high-quality pre-commercial research and technology development. Those are the three main DARD funding channels. Just to touch base on our involvement in terms of helping to promote Horizon 2020. As you know, Horizon 2020 is the EU's main competitive funding programme for research. It's an emphasis on excellent science, and more on industry leadership. So there has been a move within Horizon 2020 from being researcher-led to be industry-led, and that's an important development in terms of Horizon 2020, and tackling issues of importance to society. The goal is to ensure that Europe has a world-class science and removes barriers to innovation. In the past, Northern Ireland's had a relatively low drawdown of funding, and under advice from the Commission and other successful member states, a Northern Ireland contact point framework has been put in place to increase the number and quality of research applications coming in from our research providers. DARD's funded one of these Northern Ireland contact points, and you will hear more from Elaine later on, Elaine Groom, who's the Northern Ireland contact point later on in the session. Although based in AFBI, Elaine has got a province-wide remit and works with the university sectors as well as, of course, industry, because there's very much industry participation and industry-led research being an important element of Horizon 2020. Finally, just a word on collaboration. Our evidence innovation strategy notes that really the scope for joint planning and co-funding of new research should be explored to its maximum, to gain the maximum benefit from DARD's funding, to help leverage scientific expertise, because more and more the issues that are being addressed are complex, facing our agri-food sector. They require research across a range of disciplines, and in cases a range of research organisations as well with the required expertise. So collaboration is a key aspect which we are seeking to promote. Industry co-funding has been a feature of 15 projects within our Evidence Innovation Research Programme to date, with an investment of over 1.4 billion. Over the period of the current strategy, work is developing on synergies with research strategies in the UK and Ireland, EU and North America, and we've been heavily involved in a UK-wide study on animal and plant health science capability, and also in terms of the possibility of agri-food joining the US-Ireland Research Fund. So thank you for your attention. I hope that the brief presentation gives you an overview which will help inform discussions on research and development strategy for the agri-food sector. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. In relation to research and development and API, you're aware that other regions of the UK are actually increasing spend, and also Republic of Ireland is doing similar. Given the case that there's going to be large cuts come forward, how have you've been looking strategically at the best way forward to work to our strengths within research and development? I think it's very important that if there's going to be cuts, which it looks like inevitably there's going to be, that the department does look closely at working to our strengths. And has that been looked at? Have you looked strategically at this?
Sure, I think obviously prioritisation of work is a key aspect which the programme management boards have provided real focus on in terms of looking to the future, and the key aspects in terms of prioritising our evidence needs and opportunities for innovation. Also, trying to promote the opportunities for collaboration. You mentioned in terms of UK and Ireland funding. In both aspects, we're trying to ensure that our structures are set up to promote collaboration, which we all benefit from. For example, the review that's been going on a UK-wide basis on animal and plant health science capability is really trying to help overcome some of the issues that have been in terms of fragmentation with the research community in the UK, and to have a stronger research portfolio. We're working on work with the South in terms of research relationships on a North-South basis, and also with the US, and looking at the opportunities for the agri-food sector becoming part of the US-Ireland Research Fund. So those are issues that are very much high on our priority in terms of addressing what is a difficult financial backdrop, but also making sure that we absolutely maximise the benefits that are gained from research.
I think it's vitally important, yeah, that we don't lose out because of the cuts. I mean, it would be a travesty, especially given the going for growth and all the rest. That I think research and development is vital for the future, I think, and most would accept that. Vice Chair Joe Byrne.
Thank you, Chairman, and thanks for the presentation. Obviously, out of every unfortunate situation, very often an opportunity arises. Given that there's major cuts proposed for the AFBI budget, may I ask, who is the main driver in determining the R&D approach? And who comes up with the project subject topics for the PhDs?
Okay, I'll take those. In terms of the overall structure, very much the research is policy-led. So it's led by the programme management boards, which are chaired by directors within DARD. So, for example, Norman chairs a programme management board which deals with the wider rural issues and economic issues. They work and have representation across a range of disciplines. Also, a lot of interaction with stakeholders. That's on a formal basis with our annual stakeholder forum, but also with regular meetings and informal contact with the industry. And I think the fact that we've had 15 projects that have had industry co-funding highlights the collaboration that occurs, particularly in the innovation focus, which is the area that our programme management and Board 1 in terms of competitiveness in the marketplace deals with. In terms of PhD studentships, so there has been a move. In the past, there wasn't a huge focus on determining and being prescriptive of what PhD students' research areas were. Now those areas are identified as part of our prioritisation of our evidence gaps and our innovation needs, and those go out as areas for students then to come up with proposals along with appropriate university and research institute input, and we then assess both the student and the work that they are proposing, so that not only are we developing and aiming to develop students in a research training and also leadership, but also providing through their research. So it's really some of the research programmes that have been undertaken through PhD students have been really high quality and providing really important information to DARD.
Yes, in terms of who are the Rolls-Royce examples within the UK for agricultural research, where do we fit into the scale?
Well, I think we should be proud of our research that we have in Northern Ireland, and it's acknowledged that the research here has close links with the industry. Is acknowledged in other parts of in other areas in England in particular. There's been concerns about the separation of research away from industry, and in many ways a lot of research funding now is trying to address that issue in terms of industry-led funding for research, but there has been close relationships with the industry, and that's key in terms of the adoption of the research findings. So we have strong strengths in terms of the relationship between the research providers and the industry. No organisation can be experts in everything with it, and collaboration and working and forming relationships between research organisations is vital in moving forward. the focus, of course, of our research that we have commissioned has been in the areas that I've talked about, and that's where we see the focus and priorities of our research. In terms of an example of the programme management boards, I'm not sure, Norman, do you want to comment further in terms of our areas of particular interest?
Yeah, within my particular programme management boards, we're interested in socioeconomic research, broader economic research, and therefore it's very much geared towards the evidence needs of the department to inform policy. Whereas in other areas, the focus is more towards the innovation agenda. But some of the things that we've been researching, for example, looking at different models of agricultural education and training and the uptake of that within the industry to inform how we go about that, how best to help upskill the industry. Modelling, farm business modelling, looking at strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and how farmers will respond to different policy changes there. Impact of low income and poverty on the well-being of rural households. So just some of the projects that we've been commissioning over the last number of years to try and inform both an evaluation of what we have done to date in terms of policy interventions, but also to try and direct and inform future policy direction. I think both very important aspects, and research has a key role to play in informing the policy agenda.
Chairman, can I make one more comment?
Yeah, okay.
I think PhD studentships are crucial going forward. Are these projects at the cutting edge of the science and innovation, or are they less than radical in terms of ambition?
Well, we interviewed around 20 applicants about just before Easter, 2 weeks ago. And on our panel, we have Lance O'Brien from Chuggask, and he's been on the panel for a number of years and commented just on the quality of the students in terms of applications and the science that they were coming forward with. So in terms of an overall comment, in terms of the quality of the applications, both in terms of the science that they were putting forward, but also in terms of the quality of the students themselves, in terms of potential researchers and industry leaders, we felt they were very strong. I know that's a general comment, but that's also backed up by someone who's been on the panel for a number of period of time and who heads up the Walsh Fellowship Scheme in the South, and so he can benchmark.
Okay, Chairman. Thank you.
Edmund Pooch.
Thank you, Chair. It's difficult to take seriously the department's drive in terms of research whenever you're instituting the cuts that's being proposed on research and development. And quite frankly, as we seek to move agriculture forward, closing the likes of Cross na Creevy as a consequence of cuts, whenever we have a grass-based system for producing milk and beef, and we need to be at the cutting edge of producing the best forages with the highest quantities of grass, which will produce milk more efficiently in what is a very competitive market. We need to be doing more on the genetics in beef. We need to be doing more on crop research and in terms of crop health. There's such a range of activities that is absolutely critical to the Northern Ireland industry a decade from now, that the decisions to be made on those cuts are devastating. It was hard to take seriously. You're talking about degree courses and doctorates and so forth. That ain't going to cut it. I welcome it. We need to keep those people, but we are going to lose large numbers of really good quality, scientific-based people as a consequence of this, and the damage that will do to Northern Ireland agriculture, we will not see immediately, but we will see in the medium future and the long-term future. It will have a devastating impact on our competitiveness.
Well, first of all, we recognise the importance of research for our industry in both driving competitiveness from an environmental perspective, animal health and welfare perspective, and the economics. Obviously, prioritisation of the work where we focus on is absolutely key. We've discussed our studentships as being one channel. We've discussed our industry-led research. In terms of the DART-directed AFBI research programme, that's an important element of our work, where we're working with AFBI to identify the priority areas and moving forward to meet DART's evidence innovation needs. Research is fast moving, and how we do research changes, and you know, we are considering very significant capital investment to help in terms of both the scientific platform that's there and how it's done, and the ability to perform and drive efficiency in moving forward. We recognise that hard decisions have to be made. They have to be made through a prioritisation process. We hope that's been done in an informed basis through our strategy, which sets the framework through the more detailed then identification of our evidence and innovation needs through the Programme Management Board chairs and through our interaction with stakeholders. I'm not saying it's easy, but research is recognised as being very important, and we have done a lot of work in trying to prioritise our work and commission new work and identify areas for commissioning new work for in the future. That's just a general comment in prioritisation, particularly, Norman. I'm not sure if you want to add to that.
And I think it's also important that, you know, we have budget pressures. We have to recognise that, but also we have to be innovative in how we do research, not just the research itself being innovative. So can we do it in different ways that can achieve more from less? Can we use the research monies and the platforms that we have to leverage in additional funds from elsewhere, for example, from Europe, rather than necessarily paying for everything ourselves? Can we reduce the costs of research through an investment in the estate? So a bit of investment now can reduce costs later and allow that to be recycled and focused on people rather than buildings and estate. So it's all of those things have to be looked at to ensure that we are maximising the return from the investment in research. So we have to keep moving, have to keep looking at new ways of doing things. It's not just simply a case of continuing on doing what we've always done in the same way. We have to move and look at new ways to maximise the return that we get from the resource that we have.
With respect, Chairman, what we're getting here is loss, and you will not be able to replenish the amounts of funding that is being stripped from research through what you're doing. You will not be able to do it or come anywhere near to it. You will do a fraction of it. And that's the reality. And you can talk about buildings and investing in capital. It is the personnel who will deliver the research. It is the people. And we will lose key people to Northern Ireland whenever the Republic of Ireland and other parts of GB are moving upwards in research. We're regressing, and that's going to damage the industry. I want to put in record that if we proceed with the cuts that are being proposed for AFBI, we will do real and serious damage to Northern Ireland's agriculture industry in the medium and long-term future.
Chairman, can I make a comment to support that? Here I have is that the intellectual capacity will be so diminished, there won't be that research capacity going forward. Thanks, Chairman.
Yeah, and intention is to ensure that new research is commissioned, that our intention is to ring-fence budget for research within the AFBI-directed programme, or sorry, the DART-directed AFBI work programme. It's against a difficult financial backdrop for sure, but it's really crucial for researchers that new research is coming on stream as well, and that's we recognise the importance of that, and we recognise the importance of research to DART. I'm not sure, Norman, if you wanted to add anything more specifics on budget, etc., but those are the real issues.
Yeah, I think it's really just reiterating that point. You know, we do need to look at all ways of maximising return on the budget we have. For example, providing facilities to AFBI to leverage in additional funding from Europe, for example. Thereby we retain the research and the research capacity, not necessarily funding it 100% ourselves. And I think it's the outcomes that are the important thing. And we have to look at new ways of working and being innovative in how we maximise the level of research that we achieve from whatever resource we have at our disposal.
From a strategy perspective in R&D, it's trying to set up that framework which promotes collaboration, which supports linkages across UK and Ireland and Europe at a strategy level. That's what we're trying to put in place as best possible.
Okay. Dr. McAleer, next.
Thank you, Chair. Alistair, in your comments you made reference to the fact that the drawdown from the Horizon 2020 programme, which is 79 billion, is relatively low. Is there any particular reason for that?
Well, I mean, it was reviewed at the time, and providing additional support, which has been set in place by the Northern Ireland Contact Point framework, which was identified of providing additional support both to industry and to the research community to assist in the development of high quality research proposals going forward. It requires considerable effort in developing these collaborations, and because it's a changing scenario where now it's industry partnerships are so crucial in this, that there is a considerable investment required in developing research proposals. So we feel, and Elaine Groom, who will be with you, will give more detail on the activities that she's involved in to help provide support to increase, first of all, the number of proposals going forward, and hopefully the overall success rate.
So would you be hopeful that your engagement with the NI Contact Point would result in maximising the drawdown from the Horizon?
Yeah, certainly that's our objective of funding the Northern Ireland Contact Point, and I'm sure Elaine will give you significant detail on the work that she's doing, the extensive work that she's doing to help support both the research community and the industry.
Chair. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Tom Elliott.
Chair, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Just one broad query around the research. I know I keep harping on about the relationship between AFBI and DART overall with the universities. Do you see any future potential for better cooperation there or more working together? Because obviously if research, as we've heard on several occasions, the funding for research is going to be hugely diminished through AFBI. Is there any potential to increase the research mechanisms through better cooperation?
I think collaboration and looking continually on opportunities to improve collaboration is crucial amongst our research providers. In terms of the overall science that is undertaken, in general terms, the research that we fund is at the applied end of the spectrum. That reflects the fact that we require information in relatively short time periods for policy development, and that our budget is relatively small relative to investment required in more basic blue skies research, which the universities tend to undertake. The PhD studentships, which we've increased from 8 up to 12 per year, provide a link between the universities, that more basic science, and the programmes of work oftentimes that we're carrying out at the with research organisations like AFBI. So that they're an important linkage between that university type science and what we're commissioning generally. There may be other opportunities as well as helping to promote collaboration between the universities and between AFBI, and we will look to explore those fully. I think the PhD studentship is a good example of one way of creating a good bridge.
So are you saying that up to now there has been a limited amount of cooperation and collaboration, or are you saying it has been better than average?
There's always opportunities to improve. I mean, in a number of the research programmes that we commission, there is collaboration between AFPI and Queen's. And there's a number of EU projects, for example, that both AFPI and Queen's are involved in. And they have their areas, separate areas of expertise. But it always continually has to be examined.
So how would you describe it up to now? Has it been good, average, or better than average?
I think overall it's been good because based on the examples that I've given you. But there's always opportunities to push it forward. And plus, you know, as I come back, research is continually changing. You know, what has been in the past, you know, it's a fast-moving environment and the research areas that are being investigated. And that continually needs to be examined, and those relationships continually need to be examined.
So if it has been good in the past, how would we measure, if you were back in a year's time or 2 years' time, how would we measure if it has got better?
I think through the number of research projects which have direct collaboration between our university providers, through increased drawdown of external funding, through projects that have both providers, three main providers involved in. I think those would be some of the tangible outputs that and impact on the industry.
Chair, would it be reasonable to ask maybe that we would be provided with, you know, a brief summary just of that collaboration and what projects are working together with Queen Dard and the universities at present?
Yeah.
And what has went on in the past, so that we can maybe make a judgment in the country.
Of course.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Finally, maybe research and development for agriculture and agri-food is particularly a major issue within Going for Growth. One of the key recommendations is that agri-food innovation should be under the control of one dedicated executive and board, and that organisation would provide strategic industry priorities. What's your thinking on this, and has any of this happened, or what's happening in this regard?
Sure. Well, first of all, in terms of Going for Growth, any of the research that we are considered is evaluated against Going for Growth recommendations, and it goes through that filter. We have close cooperation with DEDI and InvestNI. InvestNI sit on some of our research commissioning panels, and we are involved closely with them in the areas where they're leading, for example, in the competency centres. So I think there's a good, strong working relationship there, but recognising that we have separate areas of policy responsibilities but with good visibility on the work that each of us are commissioning.
Across the board?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. We're going to now hear from the better regulation officials, and I welcome Paul McGurgan, I hope I pronounced that right, Director of Digital Services, Philip Gilmore, Information Management Branch. Okay, you're very welcome. Just ask you to give us a short presentation up to 10 minutes, and then we'll ask questions. Okay?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you for your welcome. Allow me first to introduce Philip Gilmore, who's here with me in the Better Regulation Simplification Unit, and I'm Paul McGurgan, Director of Digital Services at DART. Thank you for the opportunity to come and update the committee on what we've been doing to further reduce the administrative burden on our customer businesses since the completion of the Better Regulation and Simplification Review in 2013. I don't propose to go back over the history in any detail. However, the review was a very comprehensive analysis of what are considered to be the 10 most burdensome regulatory areas in the agri-food sector. Implementation of a 3-year action plan achieved a 10% reduction in time customers spend complying with those areas of regulation from the baseline that was set in 2007. That meant that the industry had spent almost 250,000 hours available every year that can be spent on productive work rather than compliance and form filling, equivalent of almost a full working day for each farm business. We would have preferred to see this figure even higher, but it has proved to be very difficult to reduce regulation within the environment we operate in. However, we remain committed to striving to simplify procedures wherever we can and ensure that the balance between regulation and simplification creates an environment which allows businesses to grow further. We see our role as applying the regulations necessary to allow our producers to meet national and international standards. We also have a role in supporting the industry and enhancing its competitiveness through grants and subsidies. We want to see the totality of our interactions with the industry made as efficient as possible, as well as effective, for the benefit of both the taxpayer and the industry. During 2014, our Better Regulation and Simplification Unit has continued to provide an internal channels role and an education function. We ensure that rigorous impact assessments are carried out with the aim of only regulating where necessary in a way that is proportionate to the risk being addressed and to deregulate and simplify wherever possible. The Department is committed to helping realise the strategic vision set out in the Going for Growth report, which contains 9 specific recommendations under a better regulation theme. We are working with other departments to ensure this work continues as a priority and that more progress is made. The Better Regulation Simplification Unit also continues to work with the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Investment on its ongoing review of business red tape. This review was commissioned by the Minister of Enterprise, Trade and Investment and arose from an action in a joint initiative from the Northern Ireland Executive and UK Government on building a prosperous and united community. Agri-food was targeted as a priority sector within this review. The response to the review of business red tape is currently being considered by departments and will be submitted to the Executive shortly. CAP reform illustrates some of the difficulties in further reducing the administrative burden on farmers. The Commission's proposals and regulatory framework were very complex to begin with when compared to the current position. Some progress has been made in simplifying the proposals, and following consultation with the industry, the Minister made decisions, particularly around greening, very much with simplification in mind. However, we will see an increase in administration, which is disappointing, and the challenge is to keep this to a minimum. Our focus is now on delivering more services online, as we see digital provision offering the potential to make a real difference to farmers' administrative workloads. To this end, the Better Regulation and Simplification Unit have transferred into our Digital Services Division, where they have been closely involved in drafting a digital strategy and associated action plan for the department. There are very real gains to be made by farmers who are willing to make the shift to online services. Their forms can be pre-populated with information that we already hold. They can be validated at the point where they are submitted, and human errors such as omissions can be instantly picked up before final submission. So there will be less subsequent amendment, less cause for appeals, penalties and disallowances. Our priority is to build digital services that are so good that all our customers who can use them will choose to do so. As an example, I would point to the improvements in eSAF that have been introduced this year to help farmers and their agents submit their applications online with considerable advantages over the paper forms. These improvements are very much in line with the guiding principles detailed within the digital strategy. There is a written brief on DARD progress on digital services later on the committee's agenda this afternoon, so I'll not go into any further detail on this aspect at the moment. In 2014-15, over 10,500 foreign businesses travelled online directly with us and a further 5,000 through agents. Our goal is to deliver over 80% of services online by 2018, bringing many advantages to our customers in the process and at the same time helping us to address budgetary constraints that we face. In conclusion, Mr Chairman, I'd like to reassure the committee that the Minister and the Department continue to see better regulation and the simplification of service delivery strategically important. We welcome the committee's support in ensuring it is embedded in our policy and delivery work. I would now be happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I know that the committee was briefed in November 13 regarding the work that had been done to reduce administrative burden by 25%. And of course, I think about 10.4% reduction was achieved. Now, we've got a number of new members here. Can you maybe refresh our memories as to why you were unable to achieve the 25%? And of course, probably about 40% of that you achieved. Can you refresh some of the, we have a number of new members here in the committee. Okay.
I'm going to pass that to Philip, who was involved closely with that.
The regulation or the recommendations that were made in the review were followed through on. When we looked into them, there was a lot of the regulations that we couldn't actually impact on, things like tagging cattle and things like that, and some of the animal disease control recommendations that we were able to make some sort of progress on, but we weren't as able to get as far as we possibly could on. So all of those things at the beginning were costed and time in terms of time spent having to comply with those regulations, and then any changes were made, it was reassessed. When we came to the reassessment, it was found that a lot of the things we were able to make some progress, but not the progress that we wanted to make in many circumstances.
Okay. We have Edwin Poots.
Thank you, Chair. You indicated that you have difficulties with the EU. What have you took to the EU to tell them that this isn't practical here in Northern Ireland?
Well, our policy people made quite extensive representation. The Minister was very committed to try to reduce the simplification. There was some progress made on that, and that was acknowledged, but she would say that she would like that to have gone further.
Because we had Commissioner Hogan here a few weeks ago, and he says that he wants to get practical examples of where something is being proposed which isn't practical here in Northern Ireland. And I raised, for example, about green cover or cover of soil, and it appears that if you grow a crop of potatoes, for example, and you harvest those potatoes in October, maybe November, that you're not allowed to plough that ground until beyond January. Now, the farmer may well be intending to reseed that land. You will never plant grass seed in November, but it'd be much better to plough the potato ground immediately after, for the environment and for the land, particularly if it's de-stoned. And that was a practical example of something which may be applicable in some plain in Transylvania, but is actually damaging to the environment here in Northern Ireland, not just Northern Ireland, right across the United Kingdom, Republic of Ireland. I also am getting feedback that for a considerable period of time, animals which were presented for slaughter with one ear tag were allowed to be slaughtered. And in more recent times again, the plants have been insisting, I assume it's at the behest of the Department and of the Veterinary Service, that they have to have 2 tags. So farmers are going and buying tags, which are being taken to the meat plants, and are then thrown into a skip, never actually put into the animal's ears. So, frankly, we're paying lip service to better regulation, but in the application of it, very often it isn't happening. It's actually getting worse. You're talking about red tape. Someone goes to fill in a bit of a shock, or now they go to cut down a tree, and they have to get permission to do that. Practical things that shouldn't be being applied, wasting time of civil servants and putting farmers through loopholes which are totally unnecessary. And really we need to get to grips with this. It is unacceptable. A lot of the proposals, particularly in the last measures that come out in November, they're not practical.
Okay, and I mean, I think there are some valid points in there, but the purpose of the Better Regulation Simplification Unit is to apply some rigour and to ensure that those regulatory impact assessments are carried out. You know, and we will apply that rigour wherever we can. The Better Red Tape review is going to look at some external scrutiny of those regulatory impact assessments, which should bring some more additional challenge to that and ensure that policymakers do consider the implications of any proposed legislation or regulation that would be implemented.
Okay. Just to emphasise what the members just said, I was aware of one farmer contacted me. The cattle were sent to Dungannon factory in Dungannon, and he lives 20 mile away. So they rang one animal with one tag. So he travelled all the way to Portadown, got a tag, brought it to Dungannon, and his exasperation when he seen the tag through in the bin. We never put into the animal, but he had to bring it 1 hour and go 20 mile. And there's things like that.
It could be lost in the lorry on the way up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe they have the 2 tags, but.
That's exactly right. Joanne Dobson.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you for your briefing. Something I don't say very often, but I agree with Edwin Poots. He's made a very valid, very valid point there. I'm not aware of any farmers who are singing the praises of the Better Regulation Unit, and for those points that Edwin has highlighted, many more. Can you outline for us then what you feel are the key successes for farmers? Because I'm at a loss to find out what they are. I suppose I need to declare, Chair, my husband's a beef and cereal farmer. What do you feel are the key successes of this Better Regulation Unit?
Well, the Better Regulation Unit has encouraged policymakers to look at the impact, both in terms of cost to the industry, the time that it's going to spend to comply with that regulation, and the time it takes for the department to regulate.
The key successes for the farmers rather than policy. What are the farmers getting out of it other than, as Edwin said, more bureaucracy, more red tape, more...
The Better Regulation Review, while it didn't achieve as many savings that we have liked, to the target of 25, it did deliver 10% savings. It's very difficult within the regulatory environment that we operate and to reduce the amount of regulation. It's how we deliver that, and our focus, that's why our focus is now moving to online to help.
Have you asked farmers what they think of it and their personal experiences? Because as the Chair and Edwin had said, those are very real experiences that farmers are having, and DARD don't have the best reputation for simplifying anything, and it's what I have found is often the opposite. What approach then do the Better Regulation Unit take, given the average age of farmers as well, when they're looking at their digital strategy to make sure that no one is left behind? You did outline your digital strategy and associated action plans, and I think you said you will less cause for appeals, but how are you realistically ensuring with this digital strategy that no farmers left behind, given that some of them are significantly older?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is clear we have quite an aged farming population, and there are some farmers who are genuinely going to have difficulties for their age, or perhaps because they haven't got access to broadband, who are not going to be able to avail of digital services. There's a significant proportion that are. If we can get the people who can move to online and to avail of the advantages of that, that does leave more scope to provide support for those farmers who can't move.
Have you any safeguards built in to check that they're not left behind? You know, surely with your strategy and your plans, you've some...
We will have an assisted digital strategy. So part of our work has been trying to identify which farmers have access to rural broadband and who hasn't. We will be going out with a quality impact assessment very soon to identify just who and how people may be impacted by this and what mitigating factors that we can put in place. Our preferred position would be to try to get as many people online as possible so they don't miss out on the advantages that online provides. provides. We have quite a significant numbers who are using online services.
And you're
at the moment.
confident then you have safeguards in place that farmers will not be left behind then with this digital strategy? Are you fairly confident that you'll be able to pinpoint it?
We will have a comprehensive plan that will look at access to broadband, look at the skills that are required, look at other assisted digital support mechanisms that can be put in place to ensure as much as possible that people aren't left behind. We aren't withdrawing paper. That option will still be open, but it really would be an exception for those people who genuinely can't move to online. There will be some people who fall into that category, and we'll have to ensure that they can still avail of the services and aren't disadvantaged.
I hope that's right. How then are the successes of the Better Regulation Unit measured? How do you measure those? You talked about your points and things, but realistically on the ground, how are you going to measure the successes of it?
Well, the successes were measured on quite a complex methodology based on standard costs and the time that it actually took for farmers to comply with the regulations before and after the action plan was implemented. It was very cumbersome. Philip, you might want to comment on that. We would prefer now to move to a situation where that regulatory impact assessment does do an analysis and ensures that we aren't implementing regulatory burdens that we could do without, but also measure the benefits of people, for example, moving online, how faster they can carry out services like complete their single application form, how much faster they can register births and deaths of animals online rather than going through paper. So there are some techniques that we can use to point objectively to the benefits to moving on.
Finally, Chair, I use success as tongue-in-cheek. I definitely wouldn't, I know many farmers wouldn't say it's been a success. How finally are the department ensuring that when they introduce new forms and new application processes that they're not creating an even more administrative burden on our farmers? And is the Better Regulation Unit involved in all new paperwork and application forms, etc., or just existing processes?
It's involved in providing support to policy areas who are delivering policy and the delivery functions who would be involved in designing those forms. We have other...
So it will be a new policy going forward? It's not just existing?
Mostly it will be new because our focus will be moving to a digital delivery where the processes are designed for digital, not for paper, to try and get away from cumbersome paper forms asking people to fill in the same information they always have filled in. So our focus is trying to collect information once and not ask for information which we already hold across the department.
I know it's your focus, but as long as the farmers aren't left behind with that, that would be great.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Chair, thanks. Thanks for the presentation. How would you rate the success of the Better Regulation policy that yourselves and DOE brought forward from 2010?
Well, as I said, the target was 25%. We achieved 10.4%, so that was disappointing. We didn't get as far as we would have liked. It proved very difficult. So
you'd classify it as disappointing?
There's a degree of success, but it's disappointing when we couldn't have got further yet. It's a very difficult environment because of the regulation that's coming. In a lot of cases, it's coming from Europe. We have some scope, and there was a lot of the focus on implementation of CAP this year, where there were regional options, and our policy people and the Minister took largely the decisions that simplified that process as much as possible.
Okay. How deep is your discussions with Europe around the flexibility in regulations? Because what we're quite often told is that the regulation are gold-plated here in Northern Ireland, whereas they don't have to be up to the same standard as they actually are.
Well, the Better Regulation Unit wouldn't be involved in that. It's our policymakers who would be involved in it, but they're very clear about what our guidelines are around introducing new regulation. The Better Regulation Unit provides that support and advice, but it's not involved in discussions directly with the Commission and policymakers.
Should I say then, what support or advice do you give to those people who would be involved in those discussions at policy?
Well, one of the things that we do ask policy leads is to give an undertaking that they're not gold plating anything new policy that would come forward. We ask them to specifically give us an undertaking that nothing in the new policy is gold plated or goes beyond what is required.
So then, do you have a look at that when it's introduced, or those that are introduced? Do you have a look at those and go back to them and say, we feel that this is overburdensome or is well beyond what the EU have recommended?
We can do, yes, and we see those things in formulation.
Have you done that?
We've not on everything. We can't see everything, but we can look at individual aspects of the policy.
But you have done that in cases?
In cases, yeah.
Okay, such as?
Well, some of the inspections things, new regimes coming out for inspection of health. During the review, we looked at how we can synchronise some of those inspections and give sort of advice on what other departments are doing. So that type of sort of advice can be given. Again, anything within the impact assessment, where we would ask people to policy leads to give that undertaking in the assessment.
Has there been any progress around a single inspection unit, basically, or mainly between DAR and DOE?
No, there hasn't. There hasn't. There will be some opportunity for that with the creation of a new department. There have been attempts to synchronise inspections. Again, there's some success in that, but there's probably some more progress that can be made in that area. The creation of a new department does offer some scope to that, and there will be a review of inspections in the autumn, specifically at what improvements that we can make in inspections and if there are any opportunities to reduce that regulatory burden.
Well, since the process was established in 2010, has there not been any serious look at forming a single inspection unit between DOE and DARD for on-field or on-the-ground inspections?
No, because that has been quite difficult to do because of the different type of inspections. Some inspections need to be announced, some not announced, some of them cross-compliance inspections. Very difficult for a single inspector to cover that full. Some opportunity which will not, but there hasn't joint DOE DARD inspection unit set up to date.
I find that incredible, Chair. There has been no progress in that whatsoever. I don't take your argument at all that just because some inspections are unannounced or some are announced, some are around cross-compliance and some are not. Even the internal inspections from DARD alone are some are to do with cross-compliance, some are not. Some are unannounced and some are not. I just can't figure out why there can't be better cooperation with DOE or a single inspection unit.
I think there will be an opportunity for that with the creation of a new department.
I mean, outside of the single department, surely since 2010 you've been working on this together, you could have found...
Well, there is a lot of cooperation, yes. It's not a single unit, but there is a lot of cooperation between the two business areas. It's not a single unit.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Cindy Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation today. Just getting back to the cumbersome paperwork that you talk about and farmers and their applications. Did I pick up in your presentation that was it 3,500 self-applications and maybe 5,000 was from agents?
There are about 10,500 farm businesses who interact electronically with us. So they have an online account and they either register births and deaths of animals or carry out benchmarking or complete their single application online. And
see,
there are about another 5,000 who will be using agents, and those agents are using online services to submit.
Well, obviously they have reasons for using agents, whether it's something their own wish or whether it's because they're not maybe up to speed with doing it themselves, which would come at a cost. What work, or if any, do you give those 5,000 who would be using agents to encourage them maybe not to have the expertise to work themselves without using agents?
Well, it's the nature of the single application, which is once a year, and some farmers feel more content if they appoint an agent to do that on behalf. And some of them actually will still use online services to register births and deaths of animals. They just value the input of...
Now, any discussion I would have with farmers in relation to, they would tell me just having the time to do this work, and they're passing it on to agents and such like. But that comes at a cost to them. They'll tell you that themselves. So obviously you're moving towards a full-blown digital service here, if you ever get to that stage. Although you tell us there will always be an opportunity to use paper application. But can you ever envisage the day when you'll finally get to all digital, or will you insist on all digital at some stage down the line?
There may well be an insistence somewhere down the line, but our target at the moment is 2018 for 80% of key services. So that still leaves a significant...
So you get to 80% by 2018. Where do you see it going from there? Will you expect...
Eventually it will. Eventually it will. And there will have to be still an assisted digital. What we need to do is develop the services that are focused on and optimised for digital, but those people who can't access them directly would access them through a third-party agent. I accept totally that in some cases that may not be what farmers would want, and we will ensure that there is training for those farmers who want to step up and do it themselves. CAFRE carry out a significant amount of training on online systems tailored for DARD online services each year. Not so much this year because a lot of the training was around the level 2 course, but in the last few years they would have been training somewhere around 1,000 farmers per year, and most of those, as soon as they go online, don't come back off it again. So, or people who are farmers who have moved on to online services to register births and deaths of animals, once they move across, they don't move back. 90% of them will use APHIS Online to register over 90% of their animals.
That's my point. People maybe don't like change, and I say, what encouragement are you giving those people to maybe make this change? And you'll probably find that that's maybe good for your business if you carry this out. Is there, when I talk about these agents that's being used, do you think you're doing enough there to encourage those ones who are not using, who are using agents, to maybe move away from that to help themselves when they'll find maybe this is the way to go? Because by 2018 they're probably going to have to go that way anyway. Do you think there's enough being done to encourage them to do that?
I think that we would feel that farmers have a choice there. If they do want to use agents, they should be allowed to use agents. If they do want to do it online themselves, we would give them whatever help and encouragement that we can to do that themselves. So that would be providing training, promotion, profiling other farmers who have made that jump. I think there will be people in both of those categories who will still want to continue to use agents, and that's their choice. I wouldn't like that we have people who are forced to use agents because they felt that they haven't had the support to get online themselves. That'd be a different situation, and we wouldn't want to be in that position. We want to ensure that we provide whatever help and encouragement we can to get people over the line. And I mean, anecdotally, a lot of people will be coming back after going on to training and finally making that jump of coming back and saying, I wish you had forced us to do this a bit earlier. But we have to balance that then with those people who genuinely won't be able to do that. So the carrot and stick approach, we have to get the right balance there, and it is different. Those people who are registering births and deaths of animals who are going to be interacting regularly with an online service will be much more comfortable than somebody who's using a single application process and it's only used once a year. They use it, they're comfortable with using it, and then a year later they're just a bit apprehensive to going back again because they haven't used it in between. So there's quite a broad spectrum of farmers that are in there, and we need to try to address the specific needs of categories. Now we will be doing a significant amount of consultation with the industry just to find out which farmers fall into which categories so we can tailor our support appropriately.
And that's where it's come from. You're getting some feedback in relation to these different types and different scenarios that you will be looking at all that the feedback and all that data coming back.
That's a key part of our action plan, and we have already engaged with BT in identifying exactly what farmers have access to fixed line broadband. We're looking at some research work that categorises then people and classes of people from those who may have somebody in the family who use online services. They may use online services themselves for shopping, but they don't use it for government services. Some people use it for government services who aren't using it for DARD services, and we will have different strategies for each of those to encourage them to go online, because it's really in their benefit to do that. There's a big opportunity to save a lot of time and reduce that regulatory burden.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
In relation to going online, I fully understand why some farmers use agents, because especially this year, under the new cap and under the new greening and all the rest, many could probably do it themselves, but they feel that the agents have more expertise and knowledge and exactly the way to go, and they're almost terrified to do it themselves and make a mistake. And that's part of the issue.
It's a safety net, and it's also the same with paper. People feel reassured handing over the paper. There's a security in that, or comfort in handing that over and getting a receipt.
You know, I think you're some way away from getting. What percentage at the moment's done?
There were just under 40% in 2014 applied online. Our target is 50% for 2015. They're just under 60% of birth registrations that are carried out online.
They're much bigger. It's much simpler than trying to do your AX online this year. It's much simpler process. Yeah. Registering calves online.
And unfortunately, it's going to get more complex next year. Whenever we move into geospatial aid applications, it does become more difficult.
Well, tell me this: do you do any benchmarking with other regions of the UK, England, Scotland, Wales, even the Republic of Ireland, as to how they do it? And are we gold-plating the rules, or we are told in some circumstances where our department is much more rigid on the rules than other areas within UK. Do we look at the way they do it?
We do. We visit each of the regions quite regularly to identify if there are any areas that are for improvement. Edmund had outlined a few examples, but one of the commitments that the Minister had given is that if farmers did come up with areas that they felt it was particularly burdensome, that we would commit to look at those particular areas and see what could be done. So yeah, we are open to suggestions from the industry and learning from other regions if there are things that we can.
But have you looked at that? That should be a quite easy process for you to do. You would have thought, you understand, if we used to look at other regions and take your guide from see is there simplified or more simplified ways of doing it.
We do, and we do it particularly around online, and our view would be that we are ahead of the other regions, and in some cases significantly ahead.
Yeah, the perception of farmers on the ground, of course, you can understand that. The perception is it's just red tape and more red tape, and the new caps doesn't look to me that it's going to make it any easier. It's going to be more difficult.
Unfortunately, it is, and our challenge is to try to reduce the amount of additional bureaucracy and administration that's required as part of that. And online is definitely the only way that we're going to make a real impact on that. We need to factor in agents as part of that for the reasons that you outlined.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Can I remind members that we will discuss this in further detail later in the meeting in closed session under the programme, okay? Agenda item 6, oral briefing, DARD business target, plan targets for 2015-16. Can I refer members to the memo for the clerk at pages 28 to 41, papers from the department at pages 42 to 59. I presume the right side, yeah, okay.
He's a question.
Okay. Can I welcome Graham Wilkinson, Assistant Secretary. We have Colette McMaster, Assistant Secretary. We have Tracy Teague, Assistant Secretary, and Pauline Rooney, Acting Assistant Secretary. Can I ask you to take up to 10 minutes for your presentation, and then you can ask some questions?
Thank you, Chair and members, for the opportunity to come along today and present the Department's 2015-16 business plan, and hopefully give the members an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have. I'm accompanied today by 3 of the target SROs in the Department: Tracy Teague, Colette McMaster, and Pauline Rooney. Before I comment on the business plan itself, it might be helpful just to give you an overview of our individual roles and responsibilities. Firstly, as Finance Director in the Department, I'm responsible for the development and coordination of the Department's annual business plan. You also see from the various targets that pretty much anything with a pound sign beside it is my responsibility. Tracy is the HR Director in the Department, and she is leading on the implementation of the voluntary exit scheme, as well as the other aspects associated with the HQ relocation. Colette and Pauline will obviously be well known to you all. Colette leads on Going for Growth actions, as well as the development of the new Rural Development Programme. And Pauline has the unenviable task of responsibility for implementing the new area-based schemes. Hopefully between us all we'll be able to address any questions that members might have. If there is any detail that you do require, I'm more than happy to take that back to the Department and come back to you in writing. In terms of the business planning cycle, the 15-16 financial year will be the last year of the current programme for government, and also the final year of our corporate plan, our 2-year corporate plan. Members will recall that we presented that plan around this time last year, and the targets that were in 14-15 will now be replaced by the 15-16 targets. It's also important to say that we do have our strategy to 2020. Obviously that will need to be reviewed again in light of the new department in 2016, as well as our changing financial circumstances. Hopefully you'll all had an opportunity to review the business plan, which is set out at Annex A in your packs, and the various targets associated with them. The plan itself has been developed by the senior management team within the department and also endorsed by the Minister. I've also included Annexes B to D, which includes some additional contextual information, including the budget information, an additional introduction, and also further details on the department's change programme. And we intend to update our corporate plan, as I say, with the inclusion of the new 15-16 targets. Chair, the Department's annual business plan is an important internal governance arrangement for us, and important in terms of the performance framework. It is therefore essential that we set meaningful targets and ensure that appropriate oversight and accountability mechanisms are operating effectively. As well as internal reporting, we also report progress to this committee on a 6th monthly basis. And to date, that's included detailed progress reports as well as oral briefings from senior responsible officers. You'll see from the report itself that we've maintained a similar sort of format and style. And also, similar to previous years, we have developed the targets around the department's 5 strategic goals, and members will already be well aware of what they are. Excuse me. There are 41 targets under the 5 goals, and these are referenced as appropriate to our various programme for government commitments. So members are aware that a programme for government has been agreed to extend that for an additional year up to 2014-16. However, that's subject to executive approval. In defining the targets, we have also focused on the Minister's key policy priorities. And as I've set out in the covering note, these include the implementation of CAP reform, including the new RDP, the relocation programme, tackling rural poverty and social isolation, going for growth, and finally flood alleviation. In developing the plan, we've also taken into consideration the changing financial position, particularly in relation to those targets set out under Goal 5. We've been set an extremely stretching target of savings of £29.9 million in a single year. I suppose whenever you take that over the last budget process, over the last 4 years, we've had to deliver £40 million, so now we're talking about 29.9 in 1 year, so that's going to be extremely challenging for us in the department. Further detail on the savings plans have been set out at Annex C, also in your packs. Given that my name, as I say, is attached to most of the financial targets, it would be remiss of me not to set out some of the risks attached to those financial targets. As previously highlighted in the committee, our budget is quite inflexible, given that over 50% of our staff of our budget is related to salaries and wages. As a result, £5.6 million of our savings is dependent on the successful delivery of our voluntary exit scheme. So there's significant risks around that. Whilst that is a high risk, there is also uncertainty in relation to additional income generation and also reducing our internal running costs. There's no doubt that 2015-16 will be a transitional year for the department. Reduction in staff numbers will have an impact on how we deliver our services. We're also creating a new department in 2015-16, as well as launching a new suite of programmes. Both of these will greatly influence what we'll be delivering in the future. We're therefore committed in our business plan to complete a number of reviews of our business operations. This includes corporate services, customer contact, advisory, inspection and veterinary services. We've also included a target under Goal 5 to increase uptake on digital services. They're just a few of the planned initiatives during the current financial year that will take DARD towards a more modern, leaner and more efficient organisation. Chair, that concludes my introductory comments. I'm more than happy to take any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Before I even ask the question, I think Declan needs to wait for a question. Do you want to get in first?
That's okay, Chair.
Okay, go on ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Graham. I've been looking through the targets here, and I just note a couple of points. One of them relating to the Farm Business Improvement Scheme. We're looking to have finalised policy papers by March 2016. I'm guessing it may be a case that won't open until after that. Now, is that the case?
No. I mean, we were already working on the Farm Business Improvement Scheme and getting the various elements completed, so work is ongoing on that. I suppose we set a target as March 16 as in the end of the financial year to have all of that work done, but certainly it's our intention to have it launched during the 15-16 financial year.
And just a number of weeks ago, the Commissioner spoke to us about the possibility of getting a letter of comfort from the Commission to enable DARD to open up some of the schemes. What's the possibility of that happening?
I'm not that close to that. Do you want to?
Yeah, maybe talk about the approval for the RDP. And what we have on the 31st of March, we got our formal letter from the Commission setting out all the Commission observations on the draft programme that we'd put to them in October. So really the stage we're into now is we're looking and considering the Commission's comments, and we're starting into the formal negotiation period with the Commission really on their comments. And this will be a period of determining what changes, if any, we need to make, and what, to get to a point where the Commission will approve the programme. So we're hoping, ideally, to have approval of the programme by the summer. The Commissioner did mention a letter of comfort might be available before that, so we'll really need to see how this next period goes. But certainly, ideally, before the summer, we'd like to get approval. We have mentioned in the business plan a target of September, and that's really to allow for worst case scenario that there is any delay, as the Commission delayed in getting back to us with a formal letter, but we're aiming to have that approval as soon as possible. So and maybe just on the FBIS to pick up on that, as Graham said, there are a range of schemes within the Farm Business Improvement Scheme, and we would hope to be in a position to be able to launch some elements of that overall scheme during 15-16, subject to getting the RDP approval and getting the relevant business case approval.
And sorry, you've answered my second question, because I noted in the 14-15 period that the target was to have the approval by the 31st of March, but that's now slipped to the 30th of September. But you're saying that 30th of September is a very, very outside, that you'd be hoping that the approval would be secured in advance of that?
Yeah, I think that really is. I mean, we weren't able to achieve that target in 14-15 because well, there was delay in getting the formal comments back and so on. So we've included it in 15-16, aiming to get that as soon as possible. But yes, we're confident we should be able to get that by September.
Okay.
Certainly.
Just one other point, just relating to the Commissioner's comments the other week as well. He made reference to the loans, the European Investment Bank loans. Has that been given further consideration, and does the document, the technical document, need to be amended to include that financial instrument? Has it been given further consideration to that? Because I think the Minister said that the text may have to be amended to reflect that.
Well, certainly the Commissioner highlighted when he met the Minister the potential of that new EU Loan Guarantee Fund, and he did talk about it quite widely, I think, during his meetings on the day. Minister has asked officials to look at the scheme, to look at this loan scheme, and to provide advice on that to her. What the Commissioner had said is that at this stage, because our programme isn't approved yet, we have the opportunity to, if it was decided that we should include a reference to it, we could include a reference to a programme before it's approved formally, and that to do that would mean at a point in the future we could come back and modify the programme if we wanted to actually include the use of such a scheme in the programme.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for your...
Okay, no problem. Okay. Couple of questions myself. One, first of all, I do see goal 3 here. Secure approval of the European Commission for official brucellosis-free OBF status. And then I understood that to happen in April. You should receive brucellosis-free status, as I understand it. But I do just notice there, and why is it that reduction in brucellosis testing requirements by the 30th of September? Why does it take the 30th of September to reduce brucellosis testing requirements if we're already brucellosis-free now in April?
I think, Chair, there's a process to be gone through. I think they applied for OBF status back in March. So
I understood where to get it this month, but maybe I'm wrong. That was my understanding.
That's a process to be gone through. There's out there public consultation in relation to what mechanisms would be put in place post OBF. I know that's out for consultation. That consultation will close on the 17th of April. So I appreciate there's a number of different stages to it, and we're working through that.
Okay.
It's going well so far.
Just seems strange if we're...
Yeah, it's taken a long time to get here, but we're in the final stages, and we're getting there.
Well, farmers look forward to that.
Yeah.
Goal 5, publish 2015 direct payments timetable in November 2015. Why I was to wait in November to publish the timetable for direct payments this year? Very late in the year to be doing that. You thought you could soon do. I thought you had targets every year. Why have you do it in November?
Yeah, well, this is actually a target that we have had in a number of years gone past, because there's lots of things that happen as you go through the year that we'll need to process.
It looks to me like this year you're concerned about what might happen.
No, well, we want to make sure that when we do publish a target, that people can understand it and that we will be able to adhere to it. You don't want, particularly this year, you don't want to create an expectation that then can't be met. At the minute, we don't even know how many applications we'll get, and so those things have to be taken into account in the amount of effort that needs taken. But it's not. We certainly are planning to make timely payments on the basic payment scheme.
Okay. Joe Byrne.
Yeah, Chairman, thanks. Why are we so slow in getting agreement reached for the Rural Development Programme? I think the Commissioner Hogan said we were the last one of the last readings. What are the stumbling blocks currently, and what do we do to get agreement?
Okay, well, we did submit our programme in October last year, and at that stage, certainly, what we were anticipating was that we would get formal feedback from the Commission in 3 months. So we were anticipating that formal feedback in January. The Commission, given the sort of numbers of programmes that were being submitted across member states, have had some delay in actually going back formally on the programmes. So there has been it has taken longer to get our formal comments back from the Commission. So that's the reason why we haven't been able to get approval as we hoped last year by March 2015. We now have the letter. We got the letter on the 31st of March. So from this time in, I mean, what we're aiming to do is to get approval as soon as possible at this stage now, and ideally before the summer. So that's actually going to be a very quick turnaround. It'll mean a lot of work within DARD from policy and from delivery officials, but it's something that we're aiming to do. So we'll be working closely with the Commission to try and achieve that.
Yeah, Chairman, I'm still trying to find out through the fog, where is the problem with officials in Brussels, or is it our problem here that we have been slow to refine and define the programmes that we want to be pursued?
In terms of, well, at this stage, we've got
the constituent parts of the rural development programme. Which are the stumbling blocks that we're finding difficulty in finalising an understanding of Europe?
Okay, so well, we received the formal comments on the 31st of March, and we're looking at those within DARD currently. We're actually coming back to the committee next Tuesday on the 21st of April, and what we're planning to do is update the committee in more detail on the comments that we've received back from the Commission. So I think hopefully that will be helpful to you in sort of getting the detail on that. We're not anticipating, I mean, at this stage, we got the comments on the 31st of March, and we're considering them. We're not aware at this stage that there are particular stumbling blocks. We're assessing the comments that have been received, and those are with officials currently, and we're seeking comments back from officials. We'll go into a process of negotiation and discussion with Commission officials. So at this stage, we're not saying that there's a particular stumbling block there, but we'll be able to update the committee in greater detail next week on that.
Last, Chairman, on the Going for Growth strategy in particular, how much finalisation of thought has been reached in terms of the co-financing that will be required to make it an effective policy?
I think maybe you're referring to the Farm Business Improvement Scheme and the funding for that. Well, the executive, when they considered in last June, the executive agreed in principle to fund the Farm Business Improvement Scheme up to £250 million. That's subject to business case approval. It's also subject to really getting the EU Commission approval of our RDP, because the Farm Business Improvement Scheme will be an important part of the RDP. In what we're then intending to do, subject to the business case approvals, is that we will bid for that money in line with industry uptake, in line with need. Over the next budget period, really. There's already some money secured in 15-16 that would assist with Going for Growth related actions. There's £2 million resource, £2 million capital. What we're hoping to do is, subject to getting the RDP approval, subject to getting the business case approval of the relevant part of the FBIS, to be able to launch some of the resource-based schemes in the FBIS with the assistance of that money.
Okay, John.
Okay. Tom Arnold.
Chair, thanks for the presentation. Just noticing the strategic goals. Manage our business and deliver services to our customers in a cost-effective way. I was explaining that to one of my constituents who is a dairy farmer milking 60 cows. What does that mean for him or her?
I suppose in line with public finance, we're always required to challenge ourselves and make sure that we are delivering best value for money for the taxpayer, making sure that there's no waste in the organisation and that we are delivering it efficiently and effectively. In terms of this business plan, we have committed to carry out a range of reviews right across the department, including every element of our business, to actually answer that question, to make sure that we're doing things as efficiently and effectively as possible, benchmarking ourselves with other similar type organisations who deliver EU-wide programmes, and comparing ourselves to make sure that we're doing everything.
And some of that benchmarking been going on the last year?
We have started that process. We've started to look at activity-based costing, looking at the cost per transactions, looking at the cost of our inspections, and looking at how that compares to other EU countries. We're still at a very early stage in that process. The reviews have only just been commissioned, so it's very much work in progress. And certainly as public servants, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we are always trying to improve what we're doing, making sure that we're looking at our efficiency and looking for ways to improve our services. And hopefully you'll see from the business plan that that's what we're really trying to drive the department to become much more efficient. There's definitely an emphasis on doing things online, doing things much more digital, because ultimately the industry is moving on as well. And they want to become more efficient, so doing their paperwork or doing their applications online, they can do that at a time of their choosing and not just during the 9 to 5 whenever the various direct offices are open. So it's looking at different ways and making sure that we are at the leading edge in terms of delivering the services to our customers. And sorry, just to add to that, Tom, I mentioned in my opening comments, we saved £40 million over the last 4 years. We're having to save £30 million in a single year. So I think in any business, making savings of that magnitude is certainly an indication of efficiency and effectiveness.
Okay. I noticed, sorry, I'm referring to the table here, just trying, the strategic goals, which with the business targets 2014-15 and then the same for 2015-16, that table I'm looking at the moment, and it's 5.9 for last year's. Implement the various strands of DARD's estate strategy by completing the actions outlined in DARD's asset management plan, and it goes on. And then that's not in this year's. Does that mean that has been complete?
No, it hasn't been completed. I mean, that is a continual piece of work for us, where we have our estate framework, and that's already in place. So our asset management plan is something that we are doing within the department. I suppose the focus originally was around getting the strategy right, and now it's about making sure that we're delivering the asset management plan. So it's something that is done at a lower level. It's in our corporate balance scorecard as opposed to our business plan target, but it's something that we are continuing to do.
Yeah, because it's quite difficult with that table to actually establish what has been complete.
Yeah.
For last year.
Yeah.
Well, because some of it is not carried over to this year's plan, so we don't know whether it's complete or not. And I just picked that one out as an example.
Sure.
There's nothing specific about it. I'm just wondering, out of that whole table there, what's complete and what's not complete? Where are you behind? Because there's nothing there to tell us, Chair, where the department are with it all.
Sure. Well, we will be coming back to the committee with our outturn report for the end of March. So that'll advise the committee the things that we have achieved and the things that we haven't achieved. And certainly as part of that briefing, I can advise what the things that haven't been carried forward into this programme. Yeah. I mean, one of the challenges for us is that with 41 targets in here, it's about trying to keep it strategically. There's a huge amount of business that goes on in the department, and if everybody had their own target in here, it would be a massive document. But we're trying to make sure that it's the right targets that we have here, that are strategic, and that we don't end up with a massive document that's very difficult on a wheel day. Yeah.
Finally, Chair, I notice again on that same table 5.8 for last year and 5.9 for this year are basically exactly the same. Reduced the days lost per member of staff through sickness to 7.5 days by March 2015, wasn't last year's, this year's 2016. Does that mean there's been no progress, not whatsoever?
That was a ministerial target that was set quite a number of years ago, and we've decided to roll that target forward. We've had difficulties in achieving that over the last number of years, but rather than changing the ministerial target, we've kept the target the same, and we've included a number of interventions to try and improve things, but we are seeing an increase in sickness.
So what is the target? Sorry for asking this, because I don't know. What is, sorry, the level at the moment of sickness within the department?
Tracy knows the detail around the...
The latest is we're 28% above that target. We're actually at 9.6 working days lost against the target of 7.5 working days. So we're
sorry, you're what? Sorry, Tracy.
We are at 9.6 working days lost, and the target is 7.5 working days lost. So we are certainly not meeting that target. Our sickness level is significantly above that level. The target, as Graham said, was set in 2010. It's a ministerial target. It was set for 5 years and will be carried forward. So it will remain at 7.5%. Unfortunately, despite the interventions that we have, and we continue, as the whole of the NICS continues, to bring about as many new interventions as we can to manage sickness absence. But our trend is still...
Has that come down in the last year?
It has come down slightly, but
from?
It's
any idea what from?
I think I can give you the figures on this, but I think we were in the middle of the year around 10 working days. But this is a target that we'll be measuring again. The 9.6 working days is at February, so we need the delay in time to take on board what happened in March. We'll report on that, as Graham said, at the end of March business plan.
Have you any idea how many days are lost in the farming community per year for sickness levels?
No, I don't.
Might be interesting to do a survey on that and try and find that out. Share as a good comparison. Have you any idea what's lost even in the private sector in say, the agri-food processors?
I don't have those figures with me, but we do have benchmarks around against the private sector and other public sector organisations, and I can give more detail on that. Probably to say that the key sickness absence, cause of sickness absence remains stress, and we are taking forward initiatives with the Health and Safety Executive, bringing them into DARD and working with our staff to identify the causes of stress. We've kicked that off just recently. And that will hopefully have an impact during 15-16. The other issue, and I think I report on this regularly, is around compliance with managing attendance. There is an issue around making sure that it's robustly managed by all line managers throughout the department. And again, so they're the two key things moving forward that I think we will make sure that we have good governance around. The compliance with how they should manage it, making sure there's regular contact with somebody who's off sick. And also we need to think about the cause of sickness, and as I say, the main issue is stress, but no comparison with farmers.
Yeah. And just finally on that point, sorry to labour it a wee bit, but are the figures, you don't have them in front of you, but are the figures within the private sector smaller, less than
Yes,
that 7.6?
They're lower than our figures.
Okay. Is there an indication that the stress levels for those people that work in the private sector are not as great then as those that work in the public sector?
I think there could be, we could surmise on a number of issues as to why those figures, a lot of it would also be down to the terms and conditions. A lot of it is to do also with self-employed farmers, so there's a number of factors that would come into play, and there's an awful lot of research has went in terms of trying to analyse what are the triggers to make people come back to work, what are the triggers that make people go off sick. So, there's a vast range of issues, and I can go back to you on any of that if you wish.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks.
Okay. Tom, sorry.
Just one issue. A reduction of 300 staff by 2016 through the voluntary redundancy scheme. If you don't meet that target by that particular time through that scheme, have you a plan B?
think, as I referenced in my opening comments, I mean, there are certainly risks around that. As part of the budget process, we had originally assumed that staff would start to meet in September. We now know that there will be a phasing of that between September and March. And we don't know which staff will be leaving, you know, what savings there will be. So you're right, I mean, it'll be an iterative process throughout the implementation of the voluntary exit scheme. If we don't generate enough of the savings, if we don't deliver the 5.6 million, yes, we will have to return to our budget and look for options to find those savings. Again, we're always continuing assessing and reassessing our financial position, looking at opportunities, whether that be additional efficiencies, raising additional revenue from other sources, or stopping things. So we will have to look at that when we see the outworkings of the voluntary scheme. But there are risks attached to it.
You don't really have a plan B then. If you only get 150, for example, of the 300, you will then have to find savings within the department to keep them all 150 on board.
We will have to find savings to balance our books. Ultimately, we will have to do that. I don't think I've ever been through a financial year where, you know, I started off with a budget and it ends up being exactly that at the year end. You know, that's the world of financial planning that we live in. It's always assessing and reassessing where you're at and taking corrective action. And there's no doubt we will have to take some form of corrective action during the course of this financial year. We have a plan. We're working towards that plan. Will it end up exactly as it's written down at the minute? I suspect not. But that's a challenge that lies ahead of us.
Fair enough.
Okay. Okay. Can I refer you to target under 4, which states, in partnership with Agriculture Land Use Expert Working Group, agree the principles of a sustainable land management by 31st of December 2015. Set a timetable by 31st of March 2016 for publication of the Agriculture Land Use Strategy and Action Plan. And I know this is a continuation of the target from 2014-15 business plan. Can you explain what exactly is meant by the Agriculture Land Use Strategy? Who is on the expert working group? And what are the perceived outcome of this group? What will that be?
Sure. Well, the Agriculture Land Use Working Group was one of the recommendations, including in Going for Growth.
Okay.
The working group is made up of a range of experts who will look at land use and particularly trying to get the balance right between increasing agricultural output from land and at the same time making sure that we don't impact adversely on the environmental consequences of that. So it's about getting the balance right. The group is chaired by John Gilliland. There are 8 sectoral experts. I can give you the names of those, Chair, if you wish. Russell Scott, Billy O'Kane, John Best, Aileen Lawson, Sue Christie, Patrick Casement, Martin Blair and James Brown. Also attended by Norman Fulton and John Spears from the department. The group has been constituted for 12 months. It's had 2 meetings so far, and the 3rd meeting is due later on this month.
Again, is this, and I presume, and this is only me presuming this, is this to anticipate where possible grant aid being given to help?
I think, Chair, it's really about seeing what
is needed.
What is needed first?
Yes.
What is the outcome, and then looking at what interventions are required as
That's what I was looking at. Yeah, because it wouldn't make any sense to do it just for the sake of doing it. So
no, that would be a bad idea. Yes.
No, that's okay. Listen, that's okay. Thank you very much. Is there any other questions? No, everyone have it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask the members who are content that the Dord moves forward with to finalise their business plan? Okay. Members, and agenda item 7, oral briefing Dord AFBI Horizon 2020. Can I refer members to the memo from the clerk at pages 61-62 and papers from the department at pages 63 to 64? And I think. Can I welcome Elaine Groom, AFBI Horizon 2020 officer? You're very welcome, Elaine.
Good afternoon.
And you have time just to sit down a second and we just asked you to give your presentation, up to 10 minutes, and then there'll be some questions.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present to the committee this afternoon. You'll realise I've only been in this post approximately 6 weeks.
So we'll go easy on you.
Quite all right. I replaced Dr. David McCleary, who's taken up the position as head of the bacteriology branch at the Veterinary Science Division in Alfbees Performance. He was in the post from October 2013 to January of this year. I had several meetings with him both before and after taking up the post, and would be in telephone contact with him on a regular basis to ensure a seamless transition and support for the area. Many of the other Northern Ireland contact points supporting different areas were already known to me, as were staff in key organisations such as InvestNI and Intertrade Ireland. And in the past 6 weeks, I've been endeavouring to fill in gaps in my knowledge. I've been involved in 2 Northern Ireland Contact events, one in Dublin Castle on the 24th of March, which was a collaborative network building, North-South partnership building event organised by the Irish Mary Sklodowska-Curie office and Intertrade Ireland. It was very valuable to meet many of the sort of opposite numbers in the south of Ireland and make some potential contacts. And on the 31st of March, I was at the launch of the Northern Ireland Horizon 2020 strategy in the Commission offices in Belfast. That launched a new website, nih2020.com, which provides a vision or a visibility of the strategy and the resources available. And it sets out the Northern Ireland Executive target of 145 million in the 7 years to drawdown in the 7 years to 2020 programme. It's a 65% increase on the drawdown of 89 million euros from the Framework 7 programme. At that event, the preliminary statistics for the first 9 months of Horizon 2020 for the Northern Ireland activity area are available from DETI's analysis. They suggest there were 290 eligible applications targeting 129 million euros. Of those, 37 were main listed for funding, potential drawdown of just over 11 million euros. The agri-food area was represented within those proposals, 8% of total applications, but was successful in 12% of the successful projects. The overall success rate in terms of money drawn down is nearly 13%, which is equivalent to our initial performance in Framework 7, but with the new resources in place, we hope to increase that substantially. In terms of my own activity in the first 6 weeks, I've had many individual meetings. At least 10 scientists have come forward with areas of interest to groups and to companies. I had an internal workshop in AFBI with 13 attendees looking across a number of areas to develop proposal ideas. And we have a planned funding clinic at AFBI Newforge on Thursday, at which myself and the Energy and Environment, now the Northern Ireland contact points, and the people from DOE representing Interreg and EU LIFE programmes will provide a drop-in clinic. We have almost 20 people registered for that. Next week I'll be meeting Intertrade Ireland and the Irish NCP for Agri-Food, Dale Cramond, to plan an all-Ireland event for agri-food in the autumn. And I've had preliminary discussions with the InvestNI Brussels-based NCP, Farah Brahmi, about an event in Brussels sometime in the autumn also. I've been providing support to a number of proposals which are nearing or in preparation for future submission. The 4 proposals will be submitted on Tuesday of next week under waste and water calls. There's one proposal led by a company under a pilot targeting a pilot instrument called Fast Track to Innovation that will be submitted by the end of, we hope will be submitted by the end of April. And the two proposals have been successful in a two-stage process. They've been successful through stage 1, and I'll be mentoring them going forward for submission in June. They're in the areas of sustainable security and the marine area, unlocking the potential of oceans and seas. My main area at the moment is working with all potential applicants on developing strong ideas and improving partner profiles in readiness for their applications and developing partnerships for the Forward Work Programme for 2016-17, which we expect to be published at the end of September or early October. I have been working with DARD and our input into the strategy and development of that programme, and I expect next week to be working with DARD in relation to the European Innovation Partnerships on Agri-Food, the operational groups. It's a challenging role. I'm very much enjoying it. I'm one resource covering a very broad area, but I'm very willing to rise to the challenge. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. I'm aware that in this last year and a half there's only been 2 successful projects. I know you're only taking over for 6 weeks, so you can't blame for that. But it seems small, you know, only 2 projects. I think there's only 8 applications, but there's a quarter of 25% of those, 2 of them.
It is actually, that is actually incorrect, and I should have drawn your attention to that. With the preliminary data from DETI only being available at the end of March, those were guesses on my part and David McCleary's part. There have actually been 4 successes, 2 in AFBI, I think 1 in the University of Ulster and 1 in Queen's. The total in AFBI, one of the proposals was 50,000, one's worth 180,000. And therefore, in terms of the agri-food area, the success is quite high. It's one of the more successful areas in terms of drawdown from a very large number of applications.
Well, that's good that it's better than at the first look there. Absolutely. What do you think, is there more can be done to draw down more funding? We don't seem to have been that successful in the past. Do you feel that more can be done?
There is a lot to be done. There's a small number of groups have experience of success. The resource that's been put in place by the executive is intended to build on their success, but by growing new opportunities with people who have previously not applied under Framework 7, but are willing to apply under Horizon 2020. So providing them with the knowledge of how to tackle an application, and then once they get that knowledge, to gradually improve the quality of the applications.
Joe Byrne, Vice Chair.
Chairman, I wish Elaine good luck on this new job. It's a pretty daunting task. Given the modest drawdown that we've had in the past, I think there is an expectation among the agri-food sector that there's a big opportunity here. The question is, how can we maximise the opportunity? And one wonders is shortcomings within the department and the size of the unit that you're heading up now. What is the human resource there, the limitations of it, and what sort of limitations do we have in relation to helping would-be applicants in the processing of formulating an application?
We have a limited resource and it is quite challenging, but on the other hand, one of the challenges is the interest and commitment of the applicants. It is a case of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So as the Northern Ireland contact points, our first role is in signposting and demystifying the process, making it easy for people to find the information, helping them to understand it, and then when they commit to making an application, helping them to shape their application. And each group that attempts to go through that process, many of them will have ideas, but if you understand the way the calls are made, there's a large proportion of the funding is targeted at specific areas each year, and you may have an excellent idea but find that there isn't a call that your idea fits. It may be appropriate then to target some of the what are called bottom-up areas where you can present any idea under excellent science. That tends to support things like studentships and are not appropriate for everyone. So it's using expertise of people like myself to help fit interested, willing groups, fit their ideas into where the money can be applied for, and then helping to increase the quality of the applications.
How many people work alongside you in this unit?
There's me and there's 15 others appointed by DETI across the resource. I specifically look after the agri-food area, but the way Horizon 2020 has been set up, you can find bits of interest to agri-food under ICT, under energy, under health, and certainly under the environment. So we very much work as a team. And many of the applicants may also find interest under some of the excellent science areas, which are, you can present any area to excellent science or under the industrial leadership.
Finally, can I ask, what relationship do you have with the 4 executive people based in Brussels, and how helpful or otherwise can you have a working relationship with them?
I would have had a very good relationship with the members of the executive in the past, although I am aware that some of the identities have changed, people have been replaced. So I would know Farah Brahmi, the Invest in I, Northern Ireland contact point very well. I've had previous working relationship with Una Downey in the environment. I don't know Kira, I don't remember her second name, the agriculture person. I haven't met her yet, but I certainly would have no qualms about phoning her up and asking for assistance. I understand how the people in ONIEB work, and I would have made extensive use of the facilities and expertise there in the past.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay. Tom Eddie.
Chair, thanks and thank you. Wish you well too in your post. Will the focus of the funding be through AFBI, or are there many other alternatives to the levels of funding that will be coming through the project?
Anyone working in the agri-food area, there's certainly a big resource in AFBI, big pool of expertise to apply to drawdown funding, but many of the companies are interested, both the large companies in the agri-food sector as well as smaller companies, and then the appropriate research in the 2 universities.
Okay, but there wouldn't be any bias towards AFBI?
No, my post is funded by DARD. I'm employed by AFBI, but it's very much beholden on me to make sure that my knowledge is spread across all the areas that need it.
Yeah, but as you say, AFBI would have a significant advantage because obviously they would have a lot of the expertise there too.
They would have already. I mean, I've already had 2 meetings with Northern Ireland companies and are supporting those to go forward. One application doesn't include AFBI.
And the level of funding, was it 80 million euro? Is that the figure?
80 million euros was drawn down under Horizon Framework 7. It's 80 billion this time.
Okay. And do you expect all that to go within the research service? You don't see any of it being returned?
It sits as a pot of money. Are we talking about the available resource to bid against, or the money that's actually drawn down?
Well, I'm really talking about the resource that can bid into that level of funding.
Okay. Well, the 80 million sits in Europe, and they are pretty good about spending that money. Most of the calls are vastly oversubscribed. So there's very little issue with not drawing down that money.
Okay, and what level of it do you see coming to Northern Ireland?
Well, I would like to think we would meet our targets. The executive has set a target of 145 million. I would like to think we would meet that or exceed it.
Quite ambitious.
That I should say that that's for the entire NICP network. It's not an individual target for particular technical areas.
Okay. Tom McKenna.
Can you give us an idea of the level of support that you'll provide to a small business that comes along with an application, with an idea for an application, and maybe it's the first time for them to do an application, they don't really know much about it. What level of support then do you give them, practical support on the ground?
Well, the first thing, I would be keen to understand the idea itself and where it fits in the overall programme, and therefore where the most appropriate help can be sought, because as I say, I cover the agri-food area, but there are other NICPs and we would tend to work together. So in the case of a small business, the resource in Invest NI would also be available, and we work with Invest NI to help that small company. So it would probably be both the resources helping that company, the Invest NI on the SME expertise and me on the agri-food expertise. We would try to target the appropriate area for funding, let them understand the structure of the application. For a first-time applicant, we may encourage them to apply for funding to use a project writer. It's the resource of the Northern Ireland Contact Points. We don't have a sufficient resource to write for people because many of these applications are very long. But we would provide them with as much help and assistance in developing the application as we could, reading the application for them, helping them run small internal workshops to help them write, help them find partners. Most, but not all, of the funding requires you to have 3 partners in 3 different European countries. And that can often be a challenge for first-time applicants. So a significant resource up front would be helping them find appropriate partners. That would most likely for a company be up and down the supply chain, or it might include a research provider, probably in another country.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Elaine? Doesn't look like it.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. Elaine, thank you very much for coming along, and again, others I wish you well. I wish you well too in your new plan.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And item 8, written brief, DARD progress and digital services. Can I refer members to the memo from the clerk at page 66-68 and papers from the department at pages 69 to 75. Can I advise members that the digital strategy is a 3-year plan for how the department proposes to develop its electronic delivery services for both external and internal customers. The strategy sets out the approach to be taken to deliver digital services, the digital capabilities needed, and the high-level actions it needs to take. The programme for government has a commitment to improve online access to government services and has agreed a mandate to enable this with 3 strands as follows. Digital first, ensure digital online are the primary means of interaction. NI Direct preferred service provision using online or telephone should be using NI Direct programme. NI Direct portal used to access all online services provided. Digital First presents a number of challenges which need to be tackled at a government-wide level, and these are detailed at page 72 of the pack. DARD will focus its initial efforts on developments that deliver cost efficiencies and benefits for customers. Major transitional services will be the initial focus for the department, including APHIS, NAPHIS and SAF, and digital farm and scheme maps with an anticipated target of 80% by 2017-18. Can I seek from members content to note the written briefing, or given that this is a key element of how DARD intends to deliver the services in the future, and do members feel that an oral briefing is appropriate? Which it may be, or maybe you get an oral briefing at some stage. What does members feel? I think 80% by 2017-18 is.
Do you want an oral briefing?
No huge urgency on it at the moment, though.
Pardon?
No huge urgency.
No, not really, no. Leave it with you?
Mm-hmm.
Not for now.
Okay.
Not for now, okay.
Leave it for now. Then item 9, SR 2015-135, the Agricultural Student Fees Amendment Regulations, NI 2015. Can I refer members to the memo from the clerk at pages 77 and 78, and papers from the department at pages 79-83. I advise members that the regulations last came before the committee on the 3rd of March 2015 when no issues were identified with the merits of the policy. Can I seek comments from members? If members are content, I put the question.
Content.
I'm content, okay. But the Committee of Agriculture and Rural Development has considered SR 2015-135, the Agricultural Student Fees Amendment Regulations in Northern Ireland 2015, and subject to comment from the Examiner of Statutory Rules, has no objection to the rule. Okay, members? And item 10, correspondence. Can I refer members to the correspondence received at pages 85 to 158? Members content to action correspondence is suggested on the index sheet at page 85. Okay, members? Members content? Members, we now go to the forward vote programme, so we're going into closed session for that. Okay.
Committee room 30.